Hi, my name is Koku with blackfilm.com, and I'm here with Mouna Traoré and Loren Lott, stars of the new BET Plus series, The Porter. Thank you guys so much for joining me.
Thanks
Thank
for
you so
having
much
us.
for having us.
Thank you. I did watch 4 of the episodes, so I'm really up to speed with what's going on here. I did watch it. I want to start with you, Mouna. This series is set in the 1920s during a very tumultuous time. The character you play, Marlene Massey, really has an empathic quality, and she's a mother and she's a wife. Just talk to us about the character herself.
I think Marlene is someone who cares deeply about her community. She cares about her family. She cares about her friends. And I think it is vitally important for her to create some change. She wants Black people to be respected. She wants us to be able to have, proper healthcare, proper hygiene, proper everything. And so through her work as a Black Cross nurse, she's trying to create meaningful change. But, not only outside of the Black community is there oppression, but even within the organization, she's coming up against challenges, gender discrimination. And at the same time, she's dealing with her tumultuous relationship with Junior, her interesting connection with Zeke, and the struggles of being a Black mother of a child who is neurodivergent and who, at that time, obviously, they don't necessarily have the medical knowledge that we have now about people who are struggling with neurodivergence or autism, or we don't know Teddy's diagnosis, but she has a lot going on, and a lot of it is very similar to what women today are still dealing with. What happens when your son has an interaction with a white police officer, something that is still very current.
Absolutely, that's a great point. And Loren, as Lucy, you're working as a maid with your mother, which is just something that you just kind of have to do to get by. But the real reality is that she wants to be a singer and a dancer, and she wants to follow her dreams. But there's that ceiling. So again, as she was just saying, there's that ceiling, and then we're talking about colorism and experiences that other people would not really understand as a dark-skinned woman in that particular time. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, like which part? I don't know.
There's so much to go with this, right? Well,
Yeah.
I mean, what I thought was particularly interesting, that it wasn't just about, colorism in terms of in a white lens. She was getting discriminated by Black people within Stardust as well. Not only other Black dancers, but there's even a moment, which is very interesting, where one of the Black patrons, once you were able to sort of step out a little bit and do something a little bit experimental, he literally says, this is a Black person, this back to Africa stuff is different. Whatever happened to the other act, the one with the cream colored girl? These are things that, I mean, even as dark-skinned girls, all of us in this room, we know what that's like, those challenges we deal with now, but just dealing with those kinds of things in that time, especially with everybody dealing with those things in totality, it had to have just been so just dejecting and horrible,
Oh no, it definitely had to have been, especially for Lucy. Like I was just saying that it's incredible that she was still able to constantly believe in herself with everything against her. With her complexion being such a prominent thing, having people tell her like, you are not enough, you will never be enough. At home, hearing the same thing. So for her to constantly believe in herself, even for her to go and take that leap to like put this on show together and do something different. They were used to seeing something different from Stardust, and here she came with feathers and a whole moment, and really put so much into it. And it was great. And all they could see was like, all right, cool.
But you can't. Yeah, we just want
bring back the lighter toned one. That had to have been. I mean, it was deflating for her. I mean, as we saw after that, we saw a very vulnerable side of Lucy, where she was actually kind of broken for the first time.
I mean, and she was even told, listen, you're better than all the other girls. I mean, I think a lot of us can relate to that, even today. That you just have to work twice as hard, and she was told, you are better, but it just can't be this, regardless of how spectacular.
Yes, that's something that we were just relating to, that sometimes even just as Black people, as a dark-skinned girl, whatever, you will end up doing and having to do way more work, doing it better, doing it whatever, and it still not be enough or get the notoriety that someone who did half as much or even the same could have gotten, and how deflating, that is. But it's life. You always have to work a little harder, do a little more, be a little better.
It's just the reality. So Mouna, I want to go back to you. You spoke about your character being a Black cross nurse. I think a lot of people, and I don't think, at least from an American perspective, we're not really taught to understand the impact of Canada on the Black Power movement and these types of initiatives. And so what she did was she was able to go to New York and to actually speak to Marcus Garvey. If people are unfamiliar with the UNIA, if you could talk about that and this, the idea of repatriation that was talked about in this show, which you really don't see on television often.
So the UNIA was an organization started by Marcus Garvey, and it was all about Black self-determination, Black pride, Black community. And within the UNIA, there was an auxiliary program called the Black Cross Nurses, which was specifically geared towards Black women, offering them opportunities to not only like engage in the community, in terms of like teaching about healthcare, administering healthcare, educating the community, offering support, because, a Black person couldn't just walk into any hospital and get adequate care. And what was really interesting to me about this time period was how connected cities in Canada and America were. I think the UNIA chapter in Montreal was actually one of the first ones after it was established in Harlem. And so there's like a lot of interconnectedness between Canadian cities and American cities, and Black liberation movements that we aren't necessarily taught about. And yeah, so within the UNIA and within the Black Cross Nurses, you had Black women being put in leadership positions, being given authority, and being able to participate in decision-making and community activities in ways you didn't even see outside the community. And so with Marlene's storyline, you get to see a woman who is not only like career driven, but in reality, there were women who were pursuing university education, becoming doctors, and a lot of them through the support of the UNIA and the Black Cross Nurses.
I thought it was just very interesting how, when with respect to Junior and the dynamic, really, to me, Zeke and Marlene had so much more in common in that sense, which is very interesting. It's very interesting. Right? And you see that right away. And it's like, I don't necessarily fault Junior for who he was, because, there has to be a means to an end. And sometimes the desperation can make you do very, very desperate things, especially when you want to be seen. And especially that particular scene that I think is going to, at an emotional level, I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people, is at that border crossing when Marlene and Zeke are at the border. And it was just so horrible to see Zeke emasculated like that, but he did it to protect her. And it just was such an emotional moment. And I think that that's something that we're all going to end up talking about in some kind of way.
Yeah. And, filming that scene was brutal. There was almost nothing to perform because the feelings are so natural. They're right there. We all know this moment. We've all experienced that moment. And I think, within us, understanding what it means to see a Black man, be humiliated in order to protect a Black woman. How, with the Will Smith thing,
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true.
It literally connects to everything that's still going on right now.
No, I think that's an excellent point, because like you said, it's just someone trying to protect somebody, and people looking at the reactive nature of things and not really looking at the entire story and the bigger picture and understanding
what that means for us as Black people.
Exactly.
Yeah. We were all nervous for that scene, by the way. We all knew it was coming. During the table reads, we were all cringing. We were all just like, oh, why does that have to be in here? Like, but it's a powerful scene. And, I was talking to them the whole day while they were filming it. And like the actor who plays Zeke, that was so heavy for him.
Of course. I was just like over here, like, oh my gosh, this is, it's so real. But I also want to talk about Loren, when she's like working with her mother as this maid, and they're catering to this white family, and to see that, like you said, coming home to someone who really has just accepted their fate and their lot in life, where it's like, we're not going to do it. It's never going to be better than this. I mean, just think about that time period and what that's like for someone to just say like, you know, this foolish dream of yours, it can't be accomplished. So it's just like that added, again, just going back to that added, the sort of the stress and the impact of coming home to someone that doesn't necessarily believe in you or your dreams, going out into the world, knowing you have everything it takes to be number one, you know, the belle of the ball, the star of the show, and no one wants to believe in you. I mean, I think people really need to understand what that means.
Yes, and I feel like that is something so relevant to us in the entertainment industry. Anybody who is trying to be an actor, this is an impossible job and an impossible industry. That I know so many people who have never had anything close to an opportunity like this, but who have the talent, who have the drive, who did everything that they say that you're supposed to do, and still didn't get, you know, a lot of the opportunities, you know. And I think even in our world, like I remember when I was trying to be an actress first starting, and like I had professors like, you need to keep your priorities straight, because because a lot of people don't make it. This seems so impossible to people. So I don't fault Lucy's mother for looking at the situation and thinking, like, why would you be able to do it? What in Lucy's mind, I mean, just like a lot of ours, someone's gonna make it. Why can't it be you? Because it's gonna be somebody who decided to believe in themselves on an incredibly what the heck kind of level that leads them to the success and the victory that they've always wanted. Everybody else is looking like, how did they do that? And it's like, because I actually did it, because I actually believed in myself and like took the risk. But I know so many entertainers who I know can relate to that, to wanting something that seems impossible for where you are, you know?
I'm so glad you put it like that. You know, there's something that has always bothered me on the internet. And when I see those t-shirts that says, I'm not my ancestors, I would have smacked so-and-so. And nothing.
You would not have. You would not have.
You would not have.
You
like,
know?
Yeah.
There is no way. I mean, even Harriet Tubman said that she freed a lot of slaves, and she could have freed 1,000 more if only they had known they were slaves. You know, back then, I mean, think about that mindset. A lot of them didn't even know that they could go further. And this was this now we can look back. Now we've been through some things. Now we've seen everything they've been through, where we can have this idea of strength and power and all that stuff. But they didn't need that back then. They didn't know to fight in that way. Some of them did once they realized that they were slaves and that they were in this predicament. You know, but there's no like what they did back then could never work now because of our mindsets. But of course it could have worked back then, because we hadn't taken the time to develop through trial and error the mindsets of strength that we have now.
Mouna, what do you say to that?
I'm thinking about something Viola Davis said the other day about like the importance of, I can't remember exactly the quote, but it was something about being able to like visualize and like see. You like until you see someone in that position, you can't actually conceive of yourself in it. And I think that, you know, in particular for Black people, it's like, if I haven't seen a Black person in this space, if I haven't seen a Black person in this role, if I haven't seen, like, how am I supposed to know that we can do that? That we can aspire to that. I think this show was a great example of Black men and women who tried to push the ceiling a little further and, you know, demand rights and demand to take up space.
So, I mean, somebody has to be the first person to do something, you know, and you know, what may even seem radical or impossible, somebody has to get out there and step out and just do it. So I think that this show really does, you know, to both of your points, this show really is relatable. And it was something that made me sort of, you know, ruminate and think about the things that I've done and the challenges that I've been through and what I can accomplish in my life. So I saw it as something that helps as a guide to just be better than I have been in the past, and just to do better for myself, regardless of the challenges, you know, no matter how insurmountable. So what would you guys also, I mean, what else would you like to take from the show? I guess episodes going on from what I haven't seen. Is there anything kind of interesting that you want to know? Maybe don't spoil it, but
it's a wild ride, and it gets juicy. There's a lot of drama. I sing and I dance, and there's a lot for you. So look, you will love the show. If you give it a chance, you will love it. You will eat us up. It's a lot to digest. So you will be full. You will be satisfied. If you're hungry, this is your show.
This is a good show. Okay? Yeah. I think a lot of people, when they see period pieces that are set back in these times, they assume that the shows are going to depress them because of the emotional, like, you know, stronghold and the weight of it. This show to me doesn't do it in that particular way. it is about resilience and just really, like I said, you know, seeing yourself and just being that first person to step out. So I do not think that people are going to look at the show as something negative at all.
Yeah, for
Beyond the
sure.
negative circumstances, obviously. Yes.
That's what I'm hoping people give that a chance. I'm hoping people aren't so worried of the trauma porn that they can actually say like, and I hope that publicity is doing a great job with portraying that, you know, that this is not just like this kind of show, but if this is a wild ride that you will actually want to go on.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, it's based on a true story. You know, obviously there's some fictional elements, but it is showing what, you know, and again, I think it's very important to see Montreal and Canada's impact on the Black Power movement, that people may not necessarily, again, in the United States, we don't get that particular education out of school. You get it if you're looking for it.
Right.
And also, like, I just want people to see how expansive Blackness is. It's like in North America, going back generations, you had people from the Caribbean, you had, you know, so many different kinds of Black people, influential in numerous cities who were traveling across the continent, you know, and bringing their culture with them and establishing communities.
Absolutely, yes. There's definitely the Caribbean and African slant within this show as well, where you see people, you know, going back and forth between patois and, you know, and sort of, and also just, you know, well, I should say North American English. But once again, guys, we've spent a lot of time here. I know you guys have a lot to do. I do want to thank you both for your time. My name is Koku with blackfilm.com. I'm here with Mouna Traoré and Loren Lott. They're stars of the new BET+ series, The Porter. And I want to thank you guys so much for joining me. And thank you so much for participating in this project and for being such beautiful Black women and representing us very well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you. If you want to see more content like this on blackfilm.com, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that bell.